right, welcome back to another episode of the Heroic Nation podcast. And what the hell does that mean? I don't like when things pop up when I'm recording that I don't know what they mean. So I get warnings. What if I just close this? All right, well, whatever. Hopefully this works. All right, so today, okay, we have in the studio. Really, I never have anyone in the studio. No, that's not true. I do have some people in the studio occasionally, just very rarely. Zoom's an amazing tool, so I use it all the time. And for this one, I Zoomed and recorded with Justin from Donut Shop Podcast. Justin's career spanned the patrol, school resources, crisis negotiation, and public information. He's also the voice behind the Donut Shop Podcast, which I just mentioned, where he shares stories and lessons and honest conversation about the job, which is basically what we did here. So we just had about an hour-long talk where we just kind of like talk shop. And we covered some issues that, revolve around mental illness and police work and how the cops fit into that. We talked about command and leadership and our plans for the future. So, yeah. A pretty cool little conversation. If you are in law enforcement, I'm sure you'll appreciate it, and you might even get something out of it. If you are curious about law enforcement and how our brains work, this is maybe a podcast you want to check out as well. In this episode, we basically unpack 2 decades between the two of us, and it's about 40 years, do the math, and what the streets have taught him, navigating mental health calls, training new officers, managing stress under body cam spotlights, and preparing for life after the job. If you are a cop, first responder, or anyone curious about the human side of policing, then you'll get a lot from this one. There you go. Humanizing the badge. All right. Brought to you by, this is important, brought to you by the Heroic 28. This is the updated new program from Heroic Industries. And this is a 28-day tactical transformation challenge of sorts. All right. So it's a 28-day program that's going to take you from where you are now, which is not as good as you're going to be in 28 days. There is a nutritional component to it. There is body weight workouts that are able to be done in any garage with no weights whatsoever. Okay. This is a very, very low barrier entry program. There is no reason that you can't afford it, and there is no reason that you can't do it. You can do it by yourself with nothing, and it costs virtually nothing. So if you're interested in that, like I said, there's a nutritional component to it. There is a community piece to it. There is all these things like built in, all for you, right? And like I said, it is almost free. As free as I can make it without not having the app to support it, right? Without not having the technology to support it. Like, there's no reason not to do it. None. Okay? None. And if you already have a training program where you're lifting weights and doing stuff, this will be a good little conditioning piece for you. You can add it to it or use it in lieu of on a couple days. You don't even have to do it every day. You could do it 2-3 days a week, add it in as accessory or conditioning work. And if you do nothing already, it is a great way to kind of like on-ramp your way into physical fitness without being overwhelmed and doing too much. Okay. So it is a perfect level of volume and intensity for anybody looking to get into it. And like I said, you can use this as a standalone piece. You can use it as an accessory piece. It is really a versatile program. Okay. And like I said, I think it's like $17 for a month of training. So can't really beat that. Plus the nutrition, plus the community, plus all of it. You get access to me and lives and all kinds of stuff that I'm doing inside of the Heroic Training app. Okay. All right. Got to do a lot of editing on this intro. Anyway. All right. So there you go. Heroic 28. Sign up or don't complain about being out of shape. That is all I have for you. Go train hard. Train smart. Train heroic. Live heroic. And here's Justin. Enjoy.
No. Yeah, we have a solid. We rotate. Every other Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So we have a fixed schedule. So it's not necessarily good. I knew when it started and I was a younger guy, I was like, this is not going to be cool because you're going to have all the old guys on one set of days off and you're going to have all the junior guys on another set of days off because it's by seniority. So there's no like rotation. You're not picking like a lot of agencies to work with a specific sergeant or work in a certain district. So you get sometimes the blind leading the blind with fresh supervisors leading brand new officers. And then like my platoon, you've got the most senior sergeants running the most senior guys, but it is what it is. I got 6 months left, so I'm not worried about it.
So you're done in 6 months?
Yeah, I hit 20 in 6 months. And I'd stay if I was in some upstairs cushy position, but it's with all the stuff going on, body cams and AI watching my body cam and flagging every bad word or every mention of a gun or some sort of thing. It's too much eyes, in my opinion.
So I wanted to I'm glad we segued into this. I'd like to know a little bit more like about your background and then kind of like where you're from, what you did growing up, and then how you got into law enforcement. And then we can talk a little bit about police career.
Yeah, I'm from South Florida, like Fort Lauderdale suburb area. Lived here my whole life. Went to Orlando for 4 years for college at UCF, but then otherwise right back here. So grew up I have the type of family, my parents are still together. So I'm more of even to my wife, what she calls just like the typical suburban family.
We call that white privilege, man. That's what we call that.
Oh, yes. There we go. I forget what that is because I live it. But yeah, that's pretty much where that is. Thankful for that. But when my wife comes from a different aspect, she's from Compton, California. So she's got a different upbringing and stuff. So we challenge each other on a lot of that stuff all the time. But it's also good because I like to listen. But yeah, I just normal high school, and it was always for me. I've always been like a hobbyist, like an overachiever at hobbies, where I do something and then I like have to like go all the way to the top or the best of it. I can't just do something like half-assed. So I like Boy Scouts. I went all the way through and I finished it. I got to the Eagle Scout and I completed all that, and then. So that's always been my thing. And maybe it was part of my upbringing and where my parents like pushed me to always like try to achieve and that kind of stuff. So I did that and then went through to college. Like in high school, I sucked at math. I was not a math guy. I had a tough time in math, and you have to have, like algebra 2 to go to college. And I was already accepted to go to college in the summer, like a couple weeks after graduation. So I needed to make sure I completed that algebra 2, and I had done everything I could, study sessions and stuff, and my algebra teacher pulled me in, and like on that day after testing day, like right before the last day of school, and she's like, you didn't pass your final, but I already know you're going to college and I already know your major's criminal justice, so my daughter's in criminal justice and I know you don't need math in criminal justice. So I passed you, and it's whoa. So thank you, Ms. Gower, for sending me on my way and doing that. So I'm always happy. I wasn't like a screw off, but yeah, I definitely it just didn't work in my head. I'm not that type of person.
Yeah. But, what's funny is like, I don't talk to many cops or many of my friends, so it tells you what about my friend circles, but that are like good. Oh, I like math, or I'm good at math, almost virtually zero. And they're like, yeah, I barely survived. And I was the same way. I went to a Catholic high school and I had a similar story. We had to have math like every year. So my senior year was like pre-calculus, and I barely eked through algebra 2, like skin of my teeth. So I get into pre-calc, and Sister Robert Ann is like the last holdout of like old school nuns. And dude, like this was like just to put it in context, she's like 100 years old. My dad taught at this school in the 70s. I went in the 90s, right? She was still there and still looked the same way. And they called her Sergeant Bob. That was like the nun, right? So like you'd come in and you wouldn't pray. You'd pray before most classes. You wouldn't pray in sister's class because it was only time for math. And dude, I was failing that class. And she already knew I was going to college playing football, that I had no intention to go beyond this for math. And I was in that class every day at 7 a.m. doing extra math, still didn't pass the final. And she gave me a C just so I could pass. And she never said it, but yeah, same thing. It was like, God bless you, sister.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Same thing. So that's the first time I've ever heard anybody actually admit it. I'm not afraid to admit that happened. You're not going to pull me back and disregard my college education, all that kind of stuff, because I didn't necessarily really tick that box. But, and I think it's true because, and I did the cliche, and obviously at 17 years old, I didn't know what cops are going to say and what guys are going to say on podcasts later on. Don't do criminal justice because it's useless. And realistically, I'll argue half against that, because college isn't just for an education. And I know you're an overly educated individual, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
Hey, I appreciate it too, because I've heard you on podcasts and stuff, and you've got a good side to it of what the education was. You didn't do the engineering stuff and everything, but the psychology is an amazing thing to have. And I was partially in that as well. But college is to go and to learn how to be an adult. It's one way to learn how to function on your own, not necessarily have your parents up your butt or making you do stuff. Like I went away, but not that far away to college. So I got the responsibility. I had my side job that I worked 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week at Old Navy. So you learn that grow up adult transition in college, and then you're also getting your education. So I was totally cool with that. The thing that just looked interesting to me about criminal justice was the same thing why I took the job, was because it looked like it was something new every day. It was something exploring humanity, exploring something that I'm afraid of, committing a crime or going to jail, learning about that. Like I always had that well-founded fear through my whole life. So I did that in college, and then I did a minor in sociology just because I was like, let's try and get one other little feather in the cap. And you needed those electives. So I was like, why not just take those electives and learn about society? And those were some of the cool classes that I enjoyed. I enjoyed some of the sociology classes, deviant behavior, some of those crazy classes. So college was fun. And I learned that growing up, living on your own. Yeah, I got supplemental stuff from my parents, of course, but trying to balance, trying to learn, don't charge everything on your credit card because it's so easy. And that's exactly what I did, because I'm in Orlando and it's, let's get an annual pass to Universal. Look, I could just charge this.
Free money, yeah.
Yeah, they just gave me $5,000.
Yeah.
And so and that was 2001, because I went to school from 2000 to 2004. So the parks, unfortunately, were empty post 9/11. So being that we were 30 minutes away, we just shoot down after class and we could ride Doom's Drop 6 times in a row, go on all the roller coasters as much as we want, because the parks were empty. So college was awesome. And I did a criminal justice fraternity that was in there. It was great because it was a co-ed fraternity. So you had boys and girls in there. And of course, again, back to my excelling in my hobbies, my senior year, I volunteered to be president. I was like, hey, let's run to be president. And I ran to be president, and I was the president. And so it's just, again, showing something that I do. And it was good because I ran career fairs. Or I worked on career fairs while we were in there. We would put on one, and it was law enforcement based. So I got to talk to a lot of agencies, talk to federal agencies. My thoughts were to go into the Secret Service for the wireless fraud, the counterfeiting, the money, the treasury type stuff that they do, not necessarily the protection details. And they told me get a master's degree or get experience. And so I was like looking at it in college going, this is coming. I've been in school for all this time. So it's like, I want to go out and I want to start humping it, start doing the work. And so I ended up following a girl back home, which didn't work out, of course, because it never does. And put into a couple agencies down here. And I got hired down here by an agency that I used to go to the mall to when I was in high school on our half days and eat lunch in the food court. And now I work for that agency because at the time they were one of the only agencies that had PDFs online. Everything else was handwritten and for your application. And theirs was a PDF. And I was like, sweet, click, fill out an application. And then here we are 20 years later. So it's been a fun ride of all different stuff. You look back 20 years later and you think, oh, I didn't do anything. I'm not a sergeant. I'm not a detective. I'm not a captain or a major or whatever. But when I look back, there was some like major phases that I've gone through in a career that have been, it's been really interesting and it's been really cool. I think I hit on some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's my groundwork.
Yeah. So what year did you graduate high school?
2000.
Okay, so we graduated the same year. So what are you,
Okay.
43, 44?
40, I'm 42. I'm
42.
42.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be 43 when I retire. I turned 43 in July.
Sweet. So you must have got hired. What year did you get hired?
Oh five.
Oh five. I got hired in oh 07. But yeah, during the, all right. So like with college, okay. So like you said you're torn about, not, maybe not torn is the right word, but like about criminal justice. Cause like I looked at that, I majored in secondary education and was like, the only thing that I know I want to do in college is play football. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I looked at my dad, who's a teacher, and I mentioned law enforcement. My dad, like, my aptitudes always came back, join the military, like without a doubt, like your aptitude testing, this is what you should do. And then with the sub of like protective services or law enforcement. So I brought it up to
Yeah.
my dad and I remember him very clearly saying, cops are stupid. You're too smart to be a cop. And I was like, okay, I don't really know any cops, but like, all right, he just did not want me to go into that realm at all. And in hindsight, it's because he was trying to protect me. But anyway, so like I go into secondary education, and then very quickly I got into a classroom and was like, I like teaching. I like the process of educating youth. I like doing this whole thing. The schedule's cool. I know it. I can be a coach. I love that. I hate other teachers. I cannot stand teachers.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd say that, but even as a parent now, I see now like educators, you want to talk about like very dysregulated like nervous systems and people that do not like getting challenged, their authority challenged. Teachers are so bad. Like people always look at cops and like cops are so badge heavy, and some of us are, but by and large, like we conflict relatively well.
Yeah.
Like just because we do it all day. And
Uh,
if you
yeah.
dig your heels into the ground every single day for every little conflict you have with either another officer or a citizen or command, you'll burn out and fry. Like you'll have a nervous breakdown in a month. So by and large, cops conflict relatively well, but teachers, they don't get challenged on shit. So when they do, they have meltdowns and they're very like almost like tyrannical about it. The
Hmm.
point where they're like, you will listen to me. And their kids are like, why? And they're like, because I said so. It's, dude, you got to communicate a little bit better. I know these are kids and they're stupid, but don't give them a reason. Help them learn the process of how to conflict, and they just don't. But
Yeah, that's a great point, and part of that comes because we're the most documented profession other than sports that there is really. We're highly documented, and most conflicts end up now from 2009 when cell phones became super readily available for with cameras until now. Yeah, and then now into the stage of body cams. So yeah, we are shown the amount of, and the statistic explained ad nauseum with how many interactions police have and all that kind of stuff, and how many are truly positive versus the ones that go viral and that we see online. But yeah, bring up a great point that teachers truly are, they have that mentality of I'm correct. And it may be more, maybe less in college, that teachers are, professors are willing to debate or have conversations and learn, whereas in that secondary education, like you're saying, that they're fixed to a template or their book that they're supposed to be teaching out of and that kind of thing, and they don't want to necessarily be challenged because somebody wrote it in a book, so it's got to be correct. And maybe they're just forgetting how to explain it. And we learn that, or I hope that a lot of us, and I know I'm pat myself on the back, very good at that, learning how to explain things to other people. And when I can tell that they're not getting it explained their way to them, all right, I understand that I need to change a little bit. I need to switch lanes and maybe explain it a little differently to them to get them to do that. And part of that probably goes to, I don't have any kind of doctorate degree or master's degree in it, but I was a crisis hostage negotiator for the department because it's a part-time unit for 8, 9 years. And we used to once a month train with Nova Southeastern University, their doctoral program that uses their clinical psychology doc candidates and stuff. They are the role players. So they're the people that are in the field dealing with clients and patients and stuff. And then now they're turning that into, hey, I'm a person with crisis with a little bit of this, a little bit of this. And they sprinkle all the different types of things into those role plays and those scenarios, where it's not just you're role playing against cops, you're role playing against people that are true professionals and they understand how to hear what you're saying and trigger words and all that. So it was pretty cool. So I'm like, yeah, I feel like I can log like 600, 700 hours of training in that field that a lot of cops don't get. And I find myself gravitating towards those kinds of crazy people a lot of times and talking to them, but it works with all kinds of stuff. My wife used to say it to me all the time. You're negotiating me. You're like when we'd fight or when we'd argue about something, the calm nature in which I'd listen to her and then mirror back what she's saying or repeat or say, so what you're saying is, so I used to employ that a lot, which is very helpful. And I think a lot more people should learn about that kind of stuff because we're not.
Yeah, and that's there. So it kind of stay on the same topic here, but that is 100% accurate. One of the easiest things you can do for like tactical empathy or whatever you want to call it is like just reflective listening in a way that it doesn't sound like you're not just repeating what I'm saying, but you're like reframing it. I was thinking about it like, how can I summarize what this person is saying in a way that I can put together in 2 to 3 sentences and make them feel seen and heard? And if you can,
Yep.
and if you can do that, like people, that just makes people go, "Oh man, yes, you get me. I'm now on your side." Like now we're working as a team rather than having a conflict.
And then what they don't realize is that there's also an arterial, no, what am I saying? Ulterior motive to
Yeah.
what they're doing. I was making it a body part. You're now taking that 3 sentences, which is 20 to 30 seconds, giving them more time to calm the fuck down. If you can get them to slow down and listen to you and get hooked in, they can start to come down and come out of crisis, or at least lower their blood pressure and their rate of speech to then calm down. And now we can start having a dialogue better when they hear, oh shit, they are listening to me and they're interested. They're not just here to solve a problem and throw me in jail or whatever. And we forget that a lot of times. And I sit there and I grab these trainees. I feel like the old man trying to impart knowledge on these kids coming in, but I know they don't get it all the time. And their training officers they've got a million things that they're working on. So I try to push that information out all the time.
So with that said, like how do you do that in the context of safety? Because I saw a clip. I think I'm gonna post on this later this week on this little reel I saw. But I think the stat was like 36% of officer involved shootings are with mental illness, right? Involving someone that's mentally ill. And the clip basically, I think it was clipped up, so it created this feeling. But I'm like, oh, what should it be, zero? You know what I mean? It's never going to be zero. Like crazy people are going to do crazy irrational things and they're going to get shot sometimes. That's just life now. So I think zero is an unrealistic goal. But
Sure.
it went on to say police don't understand how we're escalating a situation with our own presence. And I was like, maybe, but like we have to, like when you look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it starts
Mm-hmm.
with like your base level is physical safety and physical needs. And most times as cops, we are dealing on that level only. Like very rarely do we climb the rung up to your feelings and emotions and sense of belonging and stuff like that. Like what we're talking about with negotiating with people, that is already assuming that physical needs are met and people are not going to be killed or you're not going to try to fight me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
navigate that on a scene as a cop, being able to do the communication, but also keeping safety in mind?
And that's one of those things and I compare it to now when I look at it and I'm like, dude, I'm in year 19 and I worked to flip back to a little bit more background on me. Like I did 5 years on the road, then I did 7 years in the schools as an SRO, and then I did 6 years as a public information officer, community resource officer, the ice cream cops. And then I stood up to the chief on something, or because that was part of my job, and it got me booted back to the road. And so now I'm back on the road, and there's things that I look at, having been on many different aspects in the police department with working with people and communications, that now I describe when I go onto a call sometimes, and I don't mean to sound too prideful or whatever, but I almost feel like Neo in the Matrix when he understands it and he's able to like almost float back and he's like fighting and he's just, whoa, I'm doing this. And so I almost feel like I'm doing this. And I try not to be naive to the fact that at any second, this guy could just go, screw you, and try to shoot me or go for my legs or come
Right.
at me or try to fight me or hurt me. But it's always, my eyes have always got to be scanning, working, and always triangulating like, all right, where's my partner? Don't put ourselves into bad situations, but keep the talk going, keep somebody talking, keep somebody engaged, almost keep somebody distracted. with your words. And I just keep, maybe it's the podcaster, the communicator in me, that I just don't shut the fuck up. And I just keep going, keep talking, look at me, look at this is what's going on. Hey, look at me, follow me over here, and just keep them distracted. But, and part of the, like you said earlier, the introduction, and I try to remind like the callers, the people that are calling us, because we are getting so many more mental health cases, because there's just not social workers around, mental therapists that are going to run to somebody's house when they're in crisis, because sometimes they are dangerous. But the families nowadays are at their wits' end, they're lazy and they don't want to handle these people anymore. So they call the cops. And I try to remind them, if I'm meeting with the caller and I'm not in contact with the person in crisis or supposedly in crisis that they're calling us about, hey, listen, just remember, you're introducing a person with a vest that has all these toys on them, handcuffs, a gun. You're introducing this thing into that situation. And I need to gauge whether in that introduction of me is going to push them over the edge even further, or if it's going to pull them back in. So I got to get more information. Do they respect the cops? What are their feelings about the cops? If they see me, are they going to feel relief, or are they going to feel like, what's the last one? We always have to look at the history of the house or the person, if we can find it, do all that background work before we even come in contact with them. Now, sometimes we can't. Our hands are tied. Boom, we got to get there. We got to handle it. And you got to do your thing. But if you have time, I had one the other day where they called us freaking early as hell in the morning. I couldn't even get breakfast. And the guy called because the woman at the house, she's schizophrenic and she's pouring oil all over the yard. So it's like, what kind of oil is it? He's outside, she's inside, the doors are closed. I hear no stimulus. There's no screaming, no yelling, no banging, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, all right, cool. Let's talk to this guy. What's up, man? And he's explaining everything to me. And he's had some kind of oil. I'm like, is it motor oil? Is it like gasoline? I don't know. I think it's like olive oil or like an oil. And so it goes into that. She's a schizophrenic with that whole religious thing where everything is Jesus, this and that. And
hyper religiosity. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's that. So it's what it is, an oil that she gets from some sort of a soothsayer that's in that same sort of a hyper religiosity cult that she's in. And so it's not necessarily a dangerous oil. Okay. And it's a yard of a house that she lives in that her family owns. So it's like, all right, we're not causing any crimes. We're not causing any damage. There's nothing criminal here. She's also allowed to be crazy.
Yeah.
She hasn't taken her medication in a year. Okay. Has she tried to kill anybody in the last year? Has she tried to kill herself in the last year? No. Okay. So there's no history of violence. So it's like, no, I don't qualify. This situation doesn't qualify. You know what? I'm not going to go knock on that door because she hasn't looked out the window, bust out here crazy because there's a cop out here. I go, I'm not going to introduce myself to her. I go, you guys, there is a county mental health group that you guys can call and they will come out and they will assist in the evaluation. Not me. Like, I'm also largely unqualified. Like, I feel like I'm qualified, but technically, if an attorney was going to ask me in court because I shot her, are you qualified to do a mental health evaluation?
It depends. It depends on what that evaluation is.
Yeah. The state gives me the ability, but I definitely didn't go to university for it. I definitely didn't get a doctorate degree or go through clinicals and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm not. And so I told the guy, cool. And he was on the phone with another cousin and the cousin's, hey, officer, I'm sorry. My cousin here jumped the gun and he called the cops instead of, and that's the thing that we have to remember is we can't solve everybody's problems and we're not going to solve everybody's problems. And I had that sort of weight on my shoulder for years of I'm the last resort. I need to fix their problems. And that would hold me to sometimes maybe I didn't do something right because I'm trying to fix their problem and help this person out. And really sometimes they need to help themselves out. So there's my soapbox on that.
I think that opens up a really good conversation because I've talked to many different. I think every state has a similar thing, whether it's the Baker Act or whatever, where it's like that 72-hour or 24-hour immediate detention based on are you a threat to yourself or somebody else, right? So you can do it in emergency detention is what we call it, but those things are abused in a way that like cops don't even realize they're doing it because you hit the nail on the head. It's not illegal to be mentally ill or crazy. Like it's not. So as long as you are not a threat to yourself through active means or negative symptoms, like you just cannot take care of yourself, if that doesn't check the box, and then you're not making threats to anybody else or suicidal, homicidal, you got nothing, man. Let them go on with their day, and they will annoy people, and they will be odd, and they will be do strange things like pouring oil on the yard. But people would say
Yeah,
that me working out in my garage 2 hours a day is also odd, and I don't get held against
that
my
might,
will. So,
yeah, that would bother somebody. That might bother somebody for sure. I don't want to see this guy sweating
right.
and grunting in his garage. Close your garage at least. Yeah, no, you're right. And then, and I learned this in my first phase of FTO because my training officer, but it didn't necessarily hit, or I didn't employ it to this like magnitude that I do these days. But back then he had been sued by somebody that he bake racked, and he told me, and it's true, it's a Fourth Amendment seizure
Absolutely.
in the by way of the Constitution. Like you
Yes.
are seizing someone, you are depriving their ability to go free. And yes, it's your probable cause is that they're going to cause harm to themselves or others immediately. Not time cop or whatever it is, a Minority Report, where it's, oh, this person has the ability, and it's, no, that's not, I can't live off of, yeah, they're crazy and they might jump off a bridge, but unless they want to jump off a bridge. And it's the same thing I say to kids. We had one behind a grocery store. This guy had just downed a bunch of Advil. A professor for pharmacology, when we do the hostage training, would say for many of these pills nowadays that are prescribed, the most dangerous thing would be is if you took the plastic bottle and swallowed it. That's how you would kill yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to have a really bad stomach ache and become possibly lethargic, but they're not going to kill you unless you swallow the actual physical bottle. And so this guy swallowed a bunch of aspirin, and one of the new guys was like, it's okay, man, we're going to get you some help. And he's trying to do the comforting thing, because this guy was like bawling, crying, just sitting there on the curb. And I just go, dude, do you want to die? And he just nodded his head. And I'm like, okay, cool, check.
Yeah.
And like, did you take those pills because you wanted to kill yourself? Yeah, check. I'm like, all right. And I looked at the new guy and I'm like, there's your PC, go, bro. Like, bake rack, like, you got him. Rescue's pulling around, so now we're good. Let's not move him immediately. Let's do one maneuver. We'll get him up, pat him down, get him on the rescue truck, rather than make him stand around and wait for rescue. Just let this guy cry. We got enough officers here. Like, I don't see any bulges or anything that's going to be dangerous right away, but otherwise we'll act in a moment. Let this guy cry it out. So it's that thing where it's just some of the stuff just comes so quickly now through experience, and that's what a lot of officers are lacking nowadays, is experience, or their minds aren't open because there's less of us out there screwing around, getting into trouble, getting into issues because we're not learning, because it's just so easy to watch a video on our phone, swipe through TikTok, make a TikTok, all that kind of stuff. We're getting out there and or our newer guys are out there getting less of an education, I think.
Yeah, I think that's true of a lot of things, just society in general. But yeah, absolutely. I do think that there is an error in either academy settings or field training or both, where it's just like what you laid out. All right, here's what we need to meet. Boom, boom, check, check, done, move. Like that way we can get this done. We can get this guy help in an efficient time. And then get back to, if you're a road patrol, your job is to deal with those things quickly, get them where they need to go, and then get back into service so you can do it again, right?
Yep.
That's your function. It's very brief. It's like I consider it like brief intervention counseling over and over again. And you have to be very blunt, very direct, and very time efficient to be good at it, right? I think that if you focus on exactly what you said, like what can I do? What do I know that is okay here? And how do I apply this in this context right now? That works really well. So like I always know, like traffic stops, for instance, here's what I know I can do. Here's how I stop cars. And here's how I know I can get into cars if I need to or whatever. I know exactly what I can do. And there's a million different ways to do it. It's like jujitsu. Like I really like a blast double takedown into a Kimura, right? That's what I like to do. I know I can do it. Same way you stop cars, same way you get and stop people on the street. I know what I can do. I know how to expand the investigation when I need to, and I'm going to take action on that. There are so many new cops, especially, that are terrified of doing the wrong thing. And it's like there's a million different ways that you can do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And if you stress out about all of them, you will be paralyzed with fear. So why don't you pick 2 or 3 things that you know you can do and just do those 2 things? That's it. Just do yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's pigeonholing yourself. Man, this kid, all he does is do traffic stops, but he ends up finding stuff all the time. And that was my thing. I was never the tree shaker. I wasn't going out with every guy walking down the street. And where I worked was that kind of an area. But I was a good backup. I was a listener. I was good on my calls and when handling those calls. Plus, they need somebody to handle the calls when all those tree shakers are off into the jail, doing their paperwork, dropping their guys off, leaving their zones empty. Because
Yeah.
if we all did it, then the whole side of the city would be empty from officers. I tried to make myself a good team player. I found the holes that needed to be plugged in our squad, kind of thing, and I wasn't that guy because I've never been huge on. I recognize that drugs can cause a problem in an area, either if it's through health or by creating crime, broken window theory, that kind of stuff. But some of the stuff that some of the guys on my old squads would do back 15 years ago when I was on the road and arresting guys because there was a seed in their center console and there was nothing else to find in the car and they tore the car apart, but they're like, there's 3 seeds. And it's like, dude, seriously? Like you're sending this guy. And I've always seen that some of the basic crimes, like the minor possession of weed and stuff, those things just start to send a person down a bad hole if they're not already in it. They're getting more of a record. Their finances are creating a problem and stuff. So the courts are imposing fines and then jail and they're missing work or they're getting fired because they're not at work because they had a seed in their car. So that kind of thing. I'm not saying if they had a kilo of cocaine in the car, then okay, hey, even just bags of cocaine, small personal use type cocaine, that kind of stuff for sure. It's more dangerous, but I've always been very laxed on weed. I've removed it. I've put it down a drain. I've sent it to the property and evidence warehouse, like whatever. But I didn't make very many. And I used to get teased by my sergeant in briefing. Hey, Yarborough, we're going to get a drug arrest today. And I'm like, I'll try, dude. And it's like, we used to have a group home for kids that would do random checks in my zone, like of the house or of the rooms for the kids. And they found like somas in a kid's room one day and they called the police. And I'm like, I guess this is a drug arrest. And I'm like, hey, Sarge, I got a drug arrest. And he's like, you didn't even fucking find those. You just did it. And I'm like, it's a drug arrest. You wanted a drug arrest.
It goes on my stats, man. It goes on my stats.
I got one that way. And same thing happened in my school. Like security, when I worked at high school, security would find, and sometimes I would help them find it because I would monitor social media and I'd see these girls that would be like, hey, I'm selling cookies. And school security would go pick up this girl and it's like, why are you selling cookies? And then they'd do the conversation with her and it turns out they were weed cookies. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I got to weigh this entire cookie because this entire cookie is now all contraband. So now it's a half a pound of a drug charge. So you're accelerating. You brought drugs into a school. Your intent to distribute, because it's like cookies individually bagged, and you're distributing through social media and all this stuff. So the girl just, it was an easy arrest for me because they gift wrapped it and brought it into me. And I was just like, all right, listen, she was a nice girl. She was smart too. And I was like, listen, you're going on record and here's your Miranda rights. But remember, you don't have to answer my question. So I'm like, what are these cookies made out of? Water, flour, marijuana, and butter. And I'm like, yo, like you didn't have to tell me any of that. You could have just said, I don't want to talk, but whatever. But yeah. So I don't even know what happened in that case. She was juvenile, so they probably tossed it. But yeah, so I wasn't really huge on drugs, but I found the need. I'm not really sure where I was supposed to be going in that dissertation, but I like to fill the needs of what my squad needed and what we were doing out there on the call and be an asset, not just be that guy standing in the background doing jack shit, waiting to go sit under a tree and do nothing. So I talked to my buddy who's a sergeant now on midnights, and he's tried since I came back to the road to get me back to midnights. But I'm like, dude, I've worked day shift for 15 years now, and my body just, I don't know if physically I can. I'll stay on and work like 18 hours or add on to my shift and work to midnight with them. And I'm like, all right, bro, I don't know if I could do the sitting around doing absolutely nothing at 2 o'clock in the morning, bullshitting like we used to back in the day, re-rolling Black and Milds and stuff and smoking cigars in an empty parking lot. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that anymore.
Yeah, that's a little painful. I can't even think about that. That's what I look at promoting, and I'm like, and I get shit all the time because when are you going to take this testing process serious? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe next time. I just took the promotional test here And somebody asked me like, how did you think you did well on it? And I was like, hell no, I didn't study one fucking second. And I'd be lucky if I got like a 30 or 40% on it. Like
Oh, wow.
it wasn't a hard test. I just didn't study for it. So it's like,
Yeah.
what do you want to get? I remember looking at it going, these aren't hard questions. If I would have studied the material, I would know it.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, I look at that and I'm like, man, I'm on a good shift. I got a bunch of stuff I do outside the job that I can do with my schedule now. And if I'm going to get promoted, what's that going to give me? Like law enforcement in general, like leadership does not have a very good reputation right now.
Yeah.
And I just, do I want to be in that group? Or are there other people that I can lead outside the department that deserve my time more?
Yeah, and that's something that recently, like I haven't been interviewed a lot, and thank you for having me on. And I spoke about this with Benny or Benjamin on Benny and the Gets, our guests, and I hate to say regrets. Do I have any regrets in my career? Because like the tattoo says, no regrets. I don't want to have a regret, but now looking to where I am, and if I truly felt like staying longer, it's man, I think I'd make a really good sergeant. Like I want to be just that sergeant. I'm not looking to become a lieutenant, a major, a deputy chief, that kind of stuff. I'm like move up the ranks and pad the resume, that kind of stuff. Like I just want to be a sergeant to look out for my guys, get them what they need, orchestrate the players, like call the plays, like that kind of thing. Get out of the office, be out on the road, put everybody where they're supposed to and get them the resources they need. But there was a period of time through that, like post 10 years on, where I was looking at other things. I was like, hey, I'm getting into this. I'm having fun doing this. I'm enjoying my schedule. I don't really know if I want to lead people at that stage in what I was thinking. And then I got into the public information sphere and I was doing a podcast on the side, outside. I was doing this and I was really enjoying that. I was getting into photography. So I'm like a photographer on the side as well. So I was getting into all that. So I was like, if I stay in this role, I get to practice my photography in the police department. I get to practice my videography in the police department, my public speaking, my this, that. So it's like all these things I was using as a benefit or as experience within the police department to benefit myself outside of the police department to get better at everything looking post career. So I lapsed on that, or I went away from it, and because it wasn't a goal. But now it's man. So that's like the one thing that I'm like, if you want to call it a regret, it's a regret because I think I could have done that. But otherwise, I don't look at SWAT and go, man, I really wish I had done SWAT. Like I could have got on SWAT, because part of it I can use an excuse is I was on field force and I was on hostage or crisis negotiation, hostage negotiation. So we're the ones that work with SWAT. So you have to get off crisis if you're going on SWAT. You have to get off mobile field force if you're going on SWAT. Make that excuse. But I liked it. So because I got to sit in air conditioning and watch TV and wait for them to do a throw phone and break in the door and toss a phone or whatever. And then once that, okay, cool, I'm on. All right, we're on stage. Where we were doing our detective work, our background investigation on the person. So we knew everything about them in the bus, but I was also in the air conditioning and I wasn't out there sweating with all the gear on.
But one of my sergeants, he's one of my best friends. He said early on, because I was trying to I was starting my gym and doing CrossFit for the department, and then trying to figure out like how to still do my athletic competitive career because I was competing in CrossFit too at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think I had 2 or 3 years on the department, and one of my buddies was like, "Dude, you can't do everything. You have to start narrowing things down." And in my head, I was like, "Dude, off, I can do everything." You know what I mean? But you can't. So you have to. Like regrets, yeah, maybe it's the same thing I look at. I never joined the military, and in hindsight, I wish I would have. I think it would have done well with it, right? But it's not like regret. It's just I just decided to go right instead of left. That's just how life is. Like you trade things for other things. You trade things you want for other things that you want.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. I was in JROTC for 4 years in high school. I had a great time. I elevated in that. And then when I went to UCF, I was like, let's keep this rolling. I enjoy the rigid nature of it, the military side of it. As much as I don't want to admit it, the PT sucked, but it was a good excuse to do something in the morning, like early in the morning in college. I wasn't really a big drinker. And I did that. But then it came time in year 2 where they're just breathing down your back. Hey, man, you got to sign, you got to sign, you got to sign. And I was like, I think I'm going to keep following this college path, because if you sign and you're in ROTC in college and you go to boot camp that summer, it's like you're in the military going to college.
Yeah.
And I wanted to experience that like college life of, as I explained earlier, like growing up and maturing and stuff. And I didn't necessarily need the military to do that for me, to mature me, but and then, oh yeah, you were talking about like aptitude tests and stuff, and that's a big thing. And I wonder if people are still doing that, because these kids that get into police work now, are they taking aptitude tests? Because I remember that's what my ASVAT in high school said. You'd be good in the military, you'd be good as a police officer, you'd be good as a park ranger. Like those were all, it was all service oriented work in a structured field, was basically, if you want to pull back and look at it. Are these kids looking at that kind of stuff? Are they taking psychological evaluations, these aptitude tests that really show you what you want? They may not be able to like pinpoint in life and put a finger on something. Maybe they just want to do everything.
Do you find, I'm curious, like being in Florida, like way disconnected from where I'm at, what do you see your new cops, the rookies coming out? Do you think that they fit the mold of being cops, or do you think that there's something that they don't? Or like, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's hard. And we have to, because like I look at myself and think, what were the things that were said to me when I started? And like when I started, Facebook was brand new. So I put my job as taking the trash out or garbage man. And I had a old guy that I used to know from the country nightclub I used to go party at. And he's, bro, take that shit off your Facebook. You're not a fucking garbage man. People know what that means. And so they were telling you stuff like that at the beginning, because in 05, we still had some social media, but we didn't have social media to the IV drip line in that it is now for people. I think part of the argument that groups like ours, like in counterculture, make with they sometimes maybe get a false narrative of what law enforcement is, but there is all kinds of videos out there that shows you some dangerous, scary crap. So did you not see the dangerous, scary crap on social media also? Like, it's not all just getting dressed and narrating what your uniform is. And so I don't think that they're like that. And so when I look at a lot of the new kids coming in, and it's sad to me because I look at it and it's like, God, you're young, but they're 20, 22, 23. I was 23. So that was me, wide-eyed. Yeah. And for my agency, like we have tough times sometimes with some of them, but I think it's probably the same thing that we had when I started 20 years ago. I don't think it's much different. I think it's just like I said with police work, like there's more cameras, there's more documentation of what's going on. Like we have more documentation of looking at their social media and looking at social media. So I don't think a lot of it is hard, but I think there is a bit of a societal change that has gone on, maybe even because of COVID, that has made people just lazier. I think for work, we're lazier because like some people don't have to go into work anymore. They can just work from home and they can just jump on a meeting, jump on this. Whereas when you had to get dressed, you had to commit to something, and they don't recognize, and I'm only spitballing this right now in my head, but they don't want to commit to it. They're upset because they're like, oh, I can't get weekends off for 8 years. We had guys that said that back when I still don't get
weekends off.
But now they're getting upset and they're leaving because they're like, oh, there's no chance of me getting weekends off. You've got a 25-year career now because we have a second tier pension. You have 25 years you got to do. So you've got probably 15 or 14 or 15 more years that you may have weekends that whole time. But it's going to take that first 7 or 8 for you to get there. And you're just going to have to pay your dues. You're going to have to make it work. You're going to have to juggle schedule. You're going to have to, figure things out. And then the question is this really what you want to do? Or are you using police work as the stereotypical, oh, this kid was beat up as a kid and now he's putting a gun on and now he feels better about himself? Are you using it as a crutch, like that you have this uniform on, that you're an authoritative figure and now someone will listen to you? Those are the people that we got to weed out because they're not in it for the right mentality. I don't know. I feel like I'm bouncing around a little bit on that question.
Yeah, so my experience is, and I struggle because I'm not sure if it's just me getting older in my career, and I'm like, man, these kids just don't have it. You know what I mean? This isn't like when I was going through the academy, but
back in my day.
Yeah, so there honestly could be some of that. I think there's a natural progression that you get to as you get older where you look back and is it the same or is it different? But it feels different in the fact that I think part of it is like what you said about body cameras and like Monday morning quarterbacking, and even the AI program that you were talking about with your department is
Yeah.
that's psychotic, right? If they're going
Yeah.
to flag stuff like that, that you don't even have to watch a video. It's just going to tell you like, oh, Anthony and Justin were having this conversation at work and it was totally inappropriate on a scene. And now we're both in trouble. We didn't do
Yep.
anything wrong. There was nobody that complained. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're going and finding stuff. So that, along with the fact that every use of force is going to be broken down frame by frame, that it creates inaction. And maybe it looks like these kids coming out are not quick thinkers, they're not good decision makers, they don't take action quickly, and they stall. And I think that there is some of that, but there could be numerous reasons why. Either they don't have the personality types, they don't have the experience for it, or they're scared of being dissected after the fact. And again, I go back to what I talked about before. Is I know that I can do these three things. I did these three things, and that's all I did. And if you want to rip that apart and get me in trouble for that, one, I don't think you'll be able to. And two, if you do, oh, I did the best I could. So I don't know. I think it's probably a combination of all of those things. And then I don't think I finished this thought earlier with academy training, but I think sometimes academy training, it scares the shit out of these dudes because everything is a gunfight. Everything,
Yeah.
you go into a scenario and like you are just pegged, sympathetic beyond like anything, and you're like just hand on the gun, ready to go. And that's good because you have to learn, hey, you have to learn how to fight and shoot and like these things because you're going to be by yourself and you're going to have to diagnose these things on the road. You're going to have to go into a domestic and be the first one there by yourself and figure out, do I need to physically grab this dude right now, or is it like, can I let this sit for a second? So you're going to have to do that. So the training has to have a huge component of fighting and shooting and how to do it all together, but not every time. You know what I mean?
Or are you just going to send him into a room and it's a kid that doesn't want to go to school today and he's not fighting, he's just lazy and just doesn't want to go to school today? Are they training him in that, gauging where they are mentally to go in there and talk to a kid and either motivate them or share some knowledge or talk to them, that kind of thing? Are they getting into that? They're coming out of here thinking that every single person is going to try and kill them. And it's
Right.
not
Yes.
a bad mentality to have, but you have to recognize that you have to put that on mute sometimes
Yeah.
and not let everybody that you're talking to know you're worried about them killing you.
Yeah, it can be something that's like in your mind, but if you show up on a scene and you initiate again, Maslow's hierarchy, right? So it's physical needs, physical safety. I'm probably 90% there. Like you're never 100% safe on a scene, but you go in
Right.
and it's a domestic with a kid who doesn't want to go to school and say he's real amped up, but it's like he's 12 years old. You know what I mean? All right, let's say that's the scenario. You show up and it's all right, is your physical safety met? More than likely, yes. Like you control the players, you have them stay seated in the same area or stay in the same place. Physical safety, you can probably check off the box. Now you can start climbing up. But if you never know how to de-escalate yourself in your own nervous system, and it's like, all right, my physical needs have been met. I can start to de-escalate myself so I can now start to solve this different problem.
Yeah.
So if you don't do that or you don't know how to do that, then the old adage, what is it? Like, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You know what I mean? So, and that's fine. If your physical needs aren't met, then be the hammer. You know what I mean? That's fine. If you cannot control the situation, this is spinning out of control. I got to grab this dude. Then do it, right? But
Yeah.
but if you can check that box and you're like, all right, cool, we're good here. I got this guy out of the car. I patted him down. He's standing here. He's calm. Hands not in pockets. Like none of the pre-attack indicators, right? Check
Yeah.
that box, and then you can start to expand your investigation and start to move yourself from like a 10 to like an 8. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
once he goes into handcuffs, then you can de-escalate to like a 3. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. But I think a lot of the training that we get in law enforcement is so just like CQB and jujitsu and all of it. And that's super important and very fun. But at the same time, like if that's all you do, like your nervous system is going to be dysregulated. And
Yeah.
and if you can't de-escalate yourself, then you can't de-escalate anyone else. And that's something I've been saying a lot lately.
Yeah, I get frustrated with the people that watch too many YouTube videos and they learn the mantras of, I need a supervisor. Get me a supervisor right here. I need a super, and they just start yelling all these things, and it's slow down a little bit. Come
Yeah.
on, lady. I'm not trying to cover this up. You're all on body cam. Like my sergeant can cue into my body camera and watch this live if he wants to, but I don't need to waste their time. It's shift change right now. They're in briefing. Just calm down. We're here for this. Let's handle this.
That's for their supervisors. And I tell them, I'll get my supervisor when you give me yours. Give me your supervisor.
Yeah. Who's in charge of you?
Yeah. Let me talk to your boss.
Who tells you what to do? Otherwise, I'm right here. I'm speaking on one the other night. I was with the children and families investigator, and this woman, she's doing the whole, I feel attacked. People call on me because blah, blah, blah. Turns out she has a 17-year-old autistic son that she's trying to get him more independent. So she sent him to the store by himself. Somebody called in and said that he lost his mind at the counter, didn't have enough change and all this kind of stuff. And so they called in children and families to do an investigation for supervision. But so she's all mad and stuff like that. And it's like, look, we understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to give your son independence. Normally you go to the store with him. You say you were sick. We're not taking your son away from you. You don't need my supervisor because the cops are here. We didn't instigate this. We didn't start it. So and she eventually, we got her to calm down. My partner was one of the ones who was just, his sight was bothering her for some reason. So I was like, get out of here, bro. I got this. Just go stand by your car. He smiled weird at her and she just flew off the handle. But she's got her own, you could tell she's got her own sprinkling of schizophrenia and stuff like that. Because she's all, I see you cops every time you drive by. You're looking at me. And you're paranoid. You're wrong. I have never even seen you. But but I get tired of the YouTube people or the people that think that they can get us going or that they know that this is how you handle a cop. You scream and ask for a supervisor because this is what I saw on YouTube. And did you see most of those videos where the window gets smashed and the person gets yanked out of a car or my supervisor? So I came over the air on that specific one and I was like, Alpha 801, we advise the mother of the child is requesting a supervisor. So I did it ridiculous over the air. And so the sergeant, who happened to be one of my really good friends, he's Delta 31. I have all confidence in my officers that they can handle the scene. I'm not coming out there. He said it over the air as well. And I made sure I wanted mom to hear that I asked, and I wanted her to hear that the sergeant. So I was giving him the read between the lines. And he knew exactly what was going on. He's, dude, I didn't even hear it was you. He goes, I looked after and go, oh, Justin and Ken were on that scene? Yeah, they got it. They're good. They don't need a supervisor out there.
So shifting, not to cut you off, I got a few minutes left. I want to make sure we talk about your podcast, shifting gears to Donut Shop Podcast. How long have you been doing that? And kind of what is the goal or mission or purpose of the Donut Shop Podcast?
I got this new backdrop. Isn't this
fun?
It
looks nice.
It's an actual donut shop. I ordered it on Amazon. I
thought you actually built the donut shop. It looks very realistic. Yeah.
I wish. I built it on ChatGPT and this is the picture it rendered out. And then I sent it on Amazon. It was $18 and it's a hanging backdrop. But I started it with the guy, Nick, from City of Miami Police Department that's got his own big YouTube channel, Nick Off Duty. We used to do a lot of videos together and stuff through my police department and then through his off duty channel. And so we had a good relationship. And in 2020, COVID, it was difficult for him at the time to get into police departments to interview them and do car videos and stuff. So he was looking for outlets, and we were sitting there one day and spitballing ideas. And I was like, what about a podcast where it's you and I talking and then we bring other people on? And so that kind of was born. And I found some old videos of us recording and spitballing the idea yesterday when I was going through some old files. So we started that in his garage, and the idea was he had a lot of connections. We were talking to different law enforcement, and it was great. We talked to chiefs, detectives from First 48 TV show, all that kind of stuff. But he would always get really busy because he's got all his other side projects. And so it's tough to tie down two people at the exact same time. COVID was easy because we had a lot of spare time on our hands. But once everything goes away and life gets back to normal, he used to have large gaps of time where it was really tough to get him going or get him nailed down for an interview or for a show. He sent me a text message one day. It was depressing for me, and he basically broke up with me. He'd started some new ventures, and I've been doing this for the last couple months, and this is why I haven't been doing Donut Shop. And so he bailed on it, which was sad, but he told me I could have it. I
Broke up with you via text, man. That's dirty. That's dirty.
Dishonorable for sure. You got to make lemonade out of lemons. And I was sad. And it was right around the same time that I got kicked out of the PIO unit. So it was like gut punch and gut punch. But my wife was like, look, just do it on your own or take it. He gave it to you. He said you could have it.
Yeah.
Take it over. I did all the background work anyways, or all the behind the scenes website, social media posts, all that kind of stuff. So I was already, and I owned all the equipment. So he was the personality. So I had to adjust and become the talkative personality. And I'm learning that and I'm getting better at it. And so now it's just doing that kind of thing. And I'm trying to do like an episode a week, that kind of stuff. And it's fun. And I just like talking to people. And it's hard nowadays. I use this as an excuse to have a conversation with somebody. I've never really called you on the phone and talked to you, but now we've had a conversation for an hour and 20 minutes that we know each other, I think, a little bit better and that kind of stuff. So I use that as a way because people are looking at their phone, they're getting a phone call, they're getting a call on the radio. You can't have extended periods of conversation with people that much anymore. I feel like we've got so much stuff. And so doing a podcast gives me the ability to sit down and talk to somebody that I want to learn about for a period of time. So it's a cop sitting in a donut shop like we do, a remove donut shop, and it could be a protein store for you or the health food store. But you're just sitting in there writing a report and everybody freaking comes up to you and wants to talk to you. You know how it is. They always want to come up and thank you for your service. And then, oh, my son did this and this and that. Oh, okay. And like you're thinking in your head, did I look interested? But realistically, it makes them feel good that they got to talk to you. You're that position of authority or something that they want to talk to, or they feel comfortable. They feel that you're not a psycho, even though that sometimes they might be. But somebody comes up and shares a story with you. So that's what the donut shop is. A cop sitting in a donut shop and somebody interesting walks in and has a conversation. So it gives me a broad ability to not pigeonhole myself to just cops or whatever. Like it could be anybody. So I talked to a guy that does wheelchair rugby because I saw him while I was on a domestic call, and it was in the lull of the back and forth interviews. And I saw him working out in the wheelchair. And I said, hey, dude, I know what that is. I know what wheelchair rugby is. So I gave him my card and said, let's do a podcast. I want to learn about you, why you're in a wheelchair, how that happened, and then how you adjust and work through life as a person he's a quad. So he's from the nipple line down. His arms are a little bit of use, but so I learned a lot of cool stuff from him and I had cool conversation with him. So it's not just cops, it's a little bit of everybody. And then now rolling into what we do now with counterculture and the network stuff. So that's the stuff that I'm building on for Donut Shop, is to make it a player in the team for a media organization of counterculture, and having different conversations. And sometimes I'm trying to strike while the iron's hot because of my media background or the news background. Like I saw that the emo guy, or the guy singing the emo song from from Census Fail. That was like a social media video. We found him. I talked to him on the phone. I got him on the podcast like within like a week or two of him going viral on social media. I find that stuff fun too with my whole media background and working with the news. So I can do that sort of stuff too.
Yeah, I found that podcasting is I dabbled in it for, God, I don't know, like since 2016, 2017, like trying to do some stuff with the gym, and then I'd get sidetracked and give up. But I've always had good success with basically using this as a leverage point to kind of like buffalo my way into circles that I really have no business in.
Yeah.
I've talked to, and I really think like what you said, doing podcasts and interviews with anybody as a cop, like you can relate it back to what we do because it's so broad, and human stories, like they just all intertwine. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a cop or you're a wheelchair rugby dude or whatever. They like you talk to them and it's, oh, these stories like overlap in so many ways. And I can relate to that. So that's really cool about just this media is, man, I can get into circles I shouldn't be in. I got a dude from Andrew Huberman's. Do you know Andrew Huberman's podcast?
Huberman Lab. Yeah.
So I reached out to one of his guests that he had on 2-3 weeks ago, and the dude messaged me back and was like, I'd love to talk to you. I was like, holy shit. Like, you talked to Andrew Huberman, and then now you're talking to me. I did that with Rafe Kelly, was on Jordan Peterson's podcast. I had an interview with him. It was like a dream come true for me. I think maybe 12 people saw the episode, but it was amazing. And it was like, you can use this to leverage that and then broaden the message and connection and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm starting like when you do the imposter type thing where it's, no, I'm not real. real. But these people that are interesting, and it's the same thing. If I sit all day on my Friday when I'm off and I watch Good Morning America, and it's like somebody does an interview on Good Morning America, then they jump over to Kelly and Mark, and it's the same person, but you figure people wake up at different times. So it's like, why would someone want to be on your podcast and then, or Huberman Lab, and then you call them and you reach out to them and say, hey, would you want to come on mine? They're trying to get out a message of their own for what they're doing or what they're promoting or what they're trying to explain, just like people would do their rounds on all the night shows promoting their movie. So I forget about that, or I don't realize that we fill that void now for some of these people and some of the more niche people, which is, in my opinion, a little more cool because you can have a long format versus a 6-minute conversation on the Tonight Show that's just basic drivel. Now we can have, you can truly break into somebody and actually, when you might open up a point that they didn't say on Huberman Lab that you've got a question about, and then they elaborate on that Huberman didn't talk about. And then so you can add to the whole sphere of everything. I'm starting to learn that, and I'm getting that a little bit more from our buddy Tyler from Anti-Hero, that he's like, dude, you just got to keep grinding. Just keep reaching out to these people, and one will reach back to you, and then there you go. You got one, and then you got one. You're just fishing for guests, and I'm just trying to keep it with what's interesting to me. Yeah. And I find a lot of stuff interesting. I could talk about all this kind of stuff. Like my wife listens to Huberman Lab because she's an occupational therapist. So she lives in the realm of health and fitness and stuff. And so to listen to Huberman, just from the stuff that I've listened to on Rogan and everything, he's freaking terribly interesting. He's amazing. Yeah. There's so many of these kind of people out there that we can all talk to, and it's cool.
I dig it. I got to go. Sure. I would love to do this again. I think that more of us in the counterculture should be on each other's shows, and that way it'll cross promote internally first and then from there. But
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man, have a great Memorial Day weekend, and
back to work tomorrow for me.
Yeah. Before you go, where can people find out more about you and Donut Shop and whatever else you are promoting?
Yeah, it's easy. It's donutshoppodcast.com. So I put everything on there. I link the YouTube videos. I've got a link to Spotify, iTunes, and all that stuff where it's all at. So it's just Donut Shop Podcast. The social media links are all on the website. So it's just one-stop shop. Just go to the website. And then I got some swag on there. Buy some swag too.
I will do that. I need some stuff. All right, dude.
I'll make tank tops for you. I got ladies racerbacks because a friend of mine, she requested a girl that used to work crime scene for us. She's like, hey, we need stuff for the girls. And I was like, what do you want? Like a racerback or something? She's yeah. And I'm like, all right, boom, boom, Printify, ready. I go, there you go. She went right on and she bought it. So,
nice.
So yeah, I'll have to make a tank top too, because I get all my tank tops from Tyler. So I didn't have a lot of tank tops before, but that's pretty much my house coat or my house clothes is a tank top. So I'm like, Tyler just keeps giving me tank tops from his clothing line. So it's like, all right, now I got all these tank tops. Yeah.
That a-hole needs to give me some tank tops too.
Yeah. Come out to an event. You were at the show. I'm surprised he always dumps clothes on people.
Yeah. I didn't get shit.
You were over there. Yeah. I'm getting ready to go up there in 2 weeks to do a bunch of recording for Counterculture for the new show they got coming out with those two guys, Taylor and the two Navy SEAL crazy dudes.
Yeah.
So I'm filming all those episodes for them. So they're going to do 8 episodes. So it should be awesome. It'll be an interesting show on Counterculture.
That will be interesting. That'll be good.
Yeah.
But all right, bro. Man, I will talk to you later. And thanks again. I appreciate your time.
All right, cool. Thanks.
See you, man.